Let's turn to events in Iran because the Supreme Leader has accused anti-government demonstrators of seeking to please Donald Trump. So Keir Starmer has issued a joint statement calling for restraint from Tehran following reports at least 62 people have died during the unrest. We can speak now to Dr Ahmed Alkhuzaei, a Bahrani political analyst and commentator specialising in broader Middle Eastern and Arab affairs. Morning to you. How fragile do you think the regime in Tehran is currently?
Good morning, James. Well, if we're talking about how fragile the regime is, it's not that fragile as people are hoping or are suspecting. It will take a lot more to do to bring it down. Today, yes, there are lots of demonstrations. We can't compare them to the same demonstrations that brought down the previous regime in '79. They're still a bit smaller. As well, if we're talking about how strong the regime is, it's still very powerful. It is estimated that they have about 610,000 armed personnel that are not yet deployed to the streets. So they still have a breathing space.
And do you think they will deploy those armed personnel? Because Donald Trump has been very clear. He's used the language of "we are locked and loaded" if the regime turns its fire on these protesters.
Which makes the Iranian regime tasting a bit of their own medicine that they made the rest of the Middle East taste over the past at least 45 years. Yes, no regime will come down without fighting, especially a tyrant one like the one we have in Iran today. So, yes, they will have to deploy them if they feel that it's about time for them to do so, because so far, yes, they are being weakened, but they are not that weak yet.
Is this, I take the point you make that it's probably not as fragile as many of the opponents of the regime would like to think. But is this the closest we have come since 1979 to the regime being overthrown?
No, not yet, actually. A few years ago, I remember there were ones in 2005. There were others after 2011, briefly. And then we have the ones here. I'm not underestimating them. They are powerful, they are strong, especially in the territories. If we're talking about the territory known as Arabstan, that was basically annexed by Iran around 100 years ago. Yes, this is the most powerful one. And Baluchistan as well, who are trying to basically reform their own country. It's a bit powerful. But when it comes to the ones in Tehran, I'm not saying it's unprecedented, but it's powerful. I'm not underestimating anything here.
Donald Trump has suggested that Ayatollah Khamenei might try to flee the country if things get really serious. Where would he go? Would he go to Russia?
Well, these are, from my point of view, of course. I'm not talking with information. I'm talking from a background. This is not Syria. This is not Yemen. This is not Afghanistan. Iran is different. It's much well established. It's much powerful, and they still have a fighting thrust in them. It won't go that easy. So when it comes to him fleeing, well, I don't see that as a big probability.
And in terms of sort of his rhetoric, the Ayatollah's rhetoric, he was on television yesterday, I believe, accusing the protesters of being troublemakers and saying that they want to please the president of the US. Does that tactic work? Does making this a kind of Iran versus the US thing, does that work for the regime?
This is propaganda. Basically, the Iranian regime has been promoting this propaganda all over. I come from a country called Bahrain. Ever since 2011, especially, we started having a huge Arab Spring uprising backed by the Iranian regime. And the same rhetoric was used by the Iranians against Bahrain, saying that the Bahrainis want their freedom and all that, neglecting the fact that they were supporting them. That's why I said in the beginning that Iran finally is tasting its own medicine.
And just finally, do you expect these protests to grow further?
Yes, definitely. And just to add one last note in the subject, if the government will go down, it won't go down just by protests. And if we see it go down, we'll see it go down with a big support from other countries. It won't just go down based on the protest alone.
So it might need foreign intervention. It might need the US getting involved even.
One way or another. If for example, the West does not recognize these protesters, it won't go further and it won't be more powerful and won't have a bigger stance. It is because of the international recognition. It will go further with further recognition.
Dr Ahmed Alkhuzaei, really appreciate your time. Bahraini political analyst and commentator specialising in broader Middle Eastern and Arab affairs. I do get the sense that the story in Iran is far from over. We will keep you across it here on LBC.
Well, Professor Mahjoob Zweiri is an associate professor in contemporary history and politics of the Middle East at Qatar University. Good morning to you, Professor Zweiri.
Good morning to you.
Thanks so much for joining me. How much jeopardy do you think this moment contains for the Iranian regime?
I think Iran, in an important juncture now, considering what was happening in Iran last year, especially in summer 2025, where Israel initiated war against Iran, and also the United States attacked the 3 nuclear facilities. The end of 2025 was not pleasant to the regime. I think continuation of these protests also is an indicator of a problem between people and the government. But having said that, let's admit that the problem is rooted, which is in economy. Iran under sanctions for more than 45 years. More than 2,000 kind of sanction imposed on Iran since that time. At least now there are a very important sanction are activated in Iran on Iran recently after the end of the nuclear deal, where basically they hit hard the economy of Iran. And I think the question today in Iran and across the globe is what's happening in Iran because of sanction or of bad management of the economy, or actually both. Because the government, the regime knew this. They know that sanctions are hitting them hard. Why they are not doing enough to reduce that pressure which caused by sanctions? If there is corruption, why they are not tackling it? If there is bad management, why they are not solving it? Considering the statements made by the Supreme Leader last week and the President Masoud Pezeshkian, they say there is a problem within the management of the economy. They sacked or basically the director of central bank, but this was not enough. They are basically putting more than $250 million to the economy last week, hoping that this will help the currency price, but it's not doing enough. So I think this is the nature of what's happening today. Of course, ordinary people, they don't have time for this. They are looking at the end, at the new Iranian year, which will be 21st of March. They want to celebrate the new year. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough. They cannot achieve what they want. They cannot buy what they want to feel happy of the new year. So, there is a huge gap between what people think and what politicians and analysts think.
Do you think that this is the greatest moment of peril since 1979 for the Ayatollah, or do you think that that's overblown at the moment?
Considering one fact, which is what's happening in Iran last summer. If you take this into consideration and add to that Iran has lost its regional role and I would say power in the region after what happened in Syria in December 2024, considering those two factors, yes, it's a critical moment to the regime.
And what replaces the regime? Because the Crown Prince, who lives in America, I think it is, isn't it? After, obviously, his family had to flee after the revolution in 1979. He said he doesn't want to necessarily replace the regime. He wants elections. So would that be the path out of the religious regime? Would it be a sort of democratization process?
The minute outsiders intervening, the minute the regime is becoming more aggressive. As someone who's worked in Iran for nearly 25 years, Iran is the regime is becoming more aggressive the minute they have statements from outside. And I think what we are seeing in the last 24 hours is happening because of those statements from the Crown Prince of Iran previously, and other statements from Washington. And I think yesterday there is a statement from UK, France, and Germany as well. So those statements is pushing the regime to become more aggressive against its own people. And actually, those statements has caused more delay of the reform in Iran. Of course, this is not justification, but this is I would say, making a statement on why is Iran is not pushing enough toward reform. What is the major weakness of this protest? And previously, they have no head, they have no organization, they have no people who can basically say do this and don't do that. And that is what the regime use, because they don't have address, so they can say this person or this organization or this political party or this political body is basically behind the protests. And that is what the regime succeed in the last 20 years. Basically, they removed any kind of potential internal power that can cause and that can be helpful in such a moment where there is a protest. And I think that's what the regime is investing in now. That's the reason why they are now basically cutting off internet from Iran for nearly now 48 hours, and did exactly what they have done after Israeli attack on June 2025. They cut off the country of the internet for nearly 4 days until they basically control the whole security scene. Then they open it again. So I think what they are doing now is trying to recontrol the security scene before they allow any kind of impact of the outsider statements or accusation or criticism to spread within the Iranian society.
Okay. Fascinating. Professor Mahjoob Zweiri, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning, talking about the latest situation in Iran there.